I started practicing yoga after university when I about age 21, and I lived in a yoga community, so I studied it intensively for quite a long time, for about 11 years. But it naturally built upon the years. I was a dancer before, and so for me the yoga was a kind of a natural progression. So the dance was something that was about being outwards and performing, which was amazing and led me in a certain way to the yoga, because I realized or recognized that you could have, while you're in the physical body, you could have these really amazing, incredible experiences. And so yoga was like a natural direction to take. One of the definitions of yoga is to turn the focus inwards. That's one of its purposes, I'll say. Particularly the physical practices that we all are quite familiar with, the physical practices of yoga, and the end result of the physical practice should be a sense of a turning inwards and a detachment, actually, an evenness. That's one of the earliest definitions of yoga from the Upanishads, is yoga is just simply evenness. So using the physical modality to create an evenness in the body, that directly affects the state of the mind, which is always constantly moving. So you create more evenness in the body, evenness in the breath, and the yogis discovered that this had a direct impact on the state of the mind. And so then when the mind was able to become still, perfectly still, it's that moment when you're able to perceive a wider reality, one beyond the limitation of form, one that's beyond the actual thoughts of the mind, it's beyond the emotions, it's beyond feelings. It's a place that's deep inside, that's even. Yeah. I think yoga is an incredibly important skill that should be made available to everybody. It's through the yoga practice, the physical practices, that you actually get grounded. We're living in an age where there's so much information and technology. It's easy to become removed from not only yourself but all of nature. So you need the groundingness of the practices to start to slow down the mind, so you're able to feel, so you're able to connect, so you're able to breathe. And it's in those moments that I think that's where you find the purpose and the meaning. Yeah. And so if you don't stop, if you're constantly kind of engaged, the senses are constantly outwards, it can kind of, I think, eventually feel very dry. So it's through the yoga practices that you find the juice, as they say in Sanskrit, the rasa. I think there has been a general evolution in people's consciousness, choosing, activities that are balancing, even choosing the right kind of foods to eat, So I think that yoga has definitely come in at a time when it's really needed, I guess you can say, to balance what's happening in the world. Now, particularly in the West, I think it's a time for us to take the support of those ancient practices to ground, to slow down, to feel, to breathe, so that we create like a balance in the way that we're living. And it is my feeling that because of the fast-paced nature of life, and it's only kind of getting more complex and complicated, strangely enough, because of technology, it seems like, that we actually have to draw upon practices that create a sense of space. Because it's so busy, there's so much going on, the pace is so fast, it's hard for the mind to actually process that level of information. So very important for there to be practices that create a sense of space and grounding, balanced in everyday action. Yoga, starting with the physical practices, they literally create space in the physical body. Physical tension can come about through, a number of different ways, from how, the type of work that you do, the repetition, things that you were born with. So tension in the physical body kind of blocks your ability to feel. It makes you, less sensitive and aware. And so yoga, it is about using your awareness to recognize, where there's tension in the physical body, to release that tension to create more space. I think alignment, in my experience, when you can align a pose in a way that's precise, you're able to go into a deeper experience of the posture. The body is like a conduit. It's the holder of the consciousness. So the more that you sort of can align and attune the body into, the shape, the right action, it's a bit like, turning on a light bulb. So if you're not quite aligned, the energy, the electricity is not quite getting through. Whereas if you can align it just so, where it's nice and stable and expanded, it's like, it becomes like a shining light. Yeah. So I've always been interested in that kind of precision, it's just part of who I am. Maybe it comes from the years as a dancer. But I like sort of like just getting it right in that place where you feel that resonance of the inner form of the pose. So it's a bit like creating an outer alignment gives you, an inner alignment, sense of connection. When you first start practicing, you begin to feel all the ways the body is tight and limited. And that can be frustrating. You start to see the body as, a limitation. And so some people, the first time they start practicing, think, oh, this doesn't feel very good. It's too much hard work. I'll do something else. And so I'd say, just stick with the practice. Make it steady. Don't overdo 1 or 2 classes per week at the most. Make a steady practice and then a little bit of practice each day on your own. And the other classic pitfall is getting so obsessed about the form that actually the yoga pose, you're thinking that is the goal of the yoga. It's through the pose that you access a state of being. It's not the pose itself. So it's important not to get wrapped up in the form of the pose. Clearly, you need to align and ground and breathe and be present. But again, those are keys or doorways into the experience that's within the form. So it's easy when you start practice yoga to get attached to like putting your foot behind your head or stuff like that. But in my opinion, that's just a distraction. It's important to get to the heart, what's underneath or behind the purpose of the practices, to understand the goal of the yoga, which is to come into a clear and present and conscious state of being. I became a teacher of yoga first and foremost because I loved the practice so much that, it was a natural step to go into teaching. And I think I had such great teachers over the years that they inspired me so much. And I feel like, when you have such great teachers that are sharing their knowledge with you and they transform the way that you experience your reality, you realize that you can't just hold that experience to yourself, that you have to pass it on. You have to share in the way that's appropriate to you that knowledge. I see for myself, for me, teaching yoga, it's a natural path for me. I'm inspired by it. I love the practice, and I love sharing that with others. And it's important for me to, share that knowledge and inspire others to keep passing it on, because I feel the more people that either practice or teach yoga, that's one more person in the world who is touching that space of conscious awareness and passing it on. It's a little bit like lighting a fire, like lighting a candle, and more people whose, it gets lit, that sort of desire to know the truth about things. That's what's going to make the world a better place.
Yoga 3D interactive learning with Anna Ashby is an exciting new concept in yoga home practice, combining the latest 3D technology with clear video instruction, delivering the most advanced and comprehensive learning guide to yoga ever developed. With the unique interactive 3D viewer, you can engage in the postures from every conceivable angle. Take your yoga practice to a whole new level with Anna Ashby and Yoga 3D.